Hey students, I wanted to show you how to complete this Forestry, What's Killing the Lodgepole Pines. So when different researchers do forestry work and they're trying to monitor different forests and see maybe what's causing their deaths, they will do these different samples where they take like transects, and in this activity it'll be like aerial transects, so from the sky. So they will take some aerial photos and they will divide up those photos into what's called quadrats, where it's divided into squares throughout, and then they will count the number of times they see something that they're looking for within that quadrat to come up with a percentage of how often the occurrence is seen, whatever they're looking for. So in this activity, I would like you to start by watching this Field Methods Forestry video, and they will explain more about transects and the problem they found in the Uinta mountain range in Utah. And then what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down to the quiz. So in this task, you are going to select how many squares in this transect you see 50% or more of dead or dying trees. And so they actually have an example here. All of these count as having 50% or more dead or dying trees. So some of them might have, and I don't see it too much in the examples, maybe a little bit here, but down here in the actual transects, you see some area of dirt. Dirt counts as an area of dead or dying trees with no trees, because it should be solid trees the whole, through this whole thing. So what you're going to do is, all of these are examples of 50% or more death. You're going to count how many squares there's 100 squares, it's a 10 by 10. You're going to count how many have 50% death. So I would count this square as 1, and maybe this one, because I'm seeing a lot of darkness, that I'm going to assume as death. So 1, 2, I'm not going to count these. This one 3, this one 4. I'm going to count this one because I'm seeing it dark down here but bare here, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the first row I got 8. You might be slightly different, and that's okay, but then I'm going to count all the rows all the way across that I see that, and I'm going to keep track of that number. Whatever number I come up with, since there's 100 squares and you need to write what percentage out of 100, you're going to write that answer in this box. Like say you got 35%. So you're going to write that down, and that is going to be your answer, and you can turn that in. Then there's another transect and examples for you to look at. You're doing the same thing. What percent has dead or dying trees? You're going to continue on with this until you finish 6 transects, okay? Then the background rate, just so you understand for like background information, the background rate of what's normal for tree death in a forest is actually 3%. So obviously any of your answers over 3% for those are going to be, really high. And so since you're getting numbers, maybe like I just picked a random number, but 35% or something, because only 3% is normal death, there's something else that is killing these lodgepole pines. So you're going to look at what that is. So they picked a few trees out of the samples, and they took tons of pictures of those individual trees. So here is a tree, and I say on here, click on the slides to see more pages. They zoomed in and took lots of photos of this particular tree. So here is some of the photos, and then I'm going to click to the second slide, and there's more photos of that tree. And then here's another page with more photos. So there were specifically 3 photos of this one tree. Well, how do you know what is killing this particular tree? So there's a bunch of choices down here that you can select from. So one of them says evidence of predation, having holes in the bark. Well, this one I can't really see holes in the bark, and this one I'm going to actually zoom in on my computer, and I don't particularly see holes in the bark there. But maybe in a different picture I do, and I do in this one. So I see that there are holes in the bark. If I'm not sure if that is going to count as an evidence of predation, holes in the bark, and I'll tell you it does, but if you don't know for sure, then at the very top of this document of the activity, I have some samples of here. So evidence of predation. When you open that evidence of predation, I have what the holes in the bark look like. So you can see pictures of what a hole in the bark looks like. So that's an example of what it would look like. And here's what your sample, I'm sorry, I scrolled down. Here's what your sample looked like. So I would say that looks like holes in the bark. Okay, the next one says evidence of predation, bark beetle galleries. A gallery is when it's made a little maze all the way through. Again, if you're not sure about those kinds of things, here you could look up a picture of what the maze looked like. But that would be, yes, I would see a evidence of predation with the bark beetle galleries. Caterpillars and moths. Okay, this one I didn't specifically see any caterpillars and moth, and you would actually see a caterpillar or moth, and I don't see it, so I'm not going to select that one. Foreign plants on the branches or bark. So I am seeing here, this looks like a foreign plant. Like that doesn't look like a pine tree, but if you're not sure what a foreign plant looks like, here's some other pictures that you could cross-reference. The next one is discolored needles is an evidence of predation. So I see right here in picture 1 some discolored needles, but you see that in this picture as well. So that's an evidence of predation. I want to point out that the discolored needles is also an evidence of pathogens, and spoiler alert, that's also evidence of drought. So if you see discolored needles, you should be marking it 3 times because it's evidence of predation, pathogens, and drought. Okay. The next one says evidence of pathogens. That means like illnesses, and it means blue-gray bark on the inside. So if I look at the inside, some of the trunk on the inside is a little gray-blue. So I would say that that counts as an evidence of a pathogen. Swelling on trunk or branches, which I do not see. But if I wanted to look that up, there's a guide on, this was the guide on predation. This is the one on fire. There's one on drought, and there's one on pathogens. So this is what a swelling would look like. And I didn't see that in any of the pictures, so I don't think it has like a growth on it. So I'm not going to count that one. The needles we already got. Evidence of wildfire, the charred bark, and the fire. The charred bark should look like this on the outside. Let me see if I see that. I don't know that I see the charred bark on these. I don't think that I see that. And then the next one is fire scars. And fire scars will look like, fire scars are like dark scars inside of the these, and I think I do see a fire scar here, and this looks like a crack, but that looks like it could be a fire scar, so I'm going to mark it. And then fire scars, and then evidence of drought, having smaller rings on the inside. So I do see that the rings on the outside here are really small. So that means there is evidence of drought, smaller outside rings. So it has had some pretty bad drought there. So that's how I would score or mark this one, and then I would turn it in on that question. I would consider that one done. So then you're going to do that with other samples in the project and kind of look at what scientists look at when they're doing transects or they're doing scientific studies on different trees. So that's how you complete this assignment.